What's up, my beautiful people? We are back in the war room today, and we are talking finally about heavyweight boxing. The heavyweight boxing championship of the world between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. And Eddie, you wrote a magnificent piece in your Patreon page. And look, I want to know that question. You did ask a question. Which Tyson Fury are we going to get? So I'm gonna kick it off to you, baby.
Thank you. I encourage people to subscribe because although I fooled around here and there in the article, mostly it was very logical, very much like a Vulcan on Star Trek would have analyzed it. Flawless logic, as Mr. Spock would have said. But I'm going to try to. I don't know if I could do it, but I'm going to read you the second paragraph in it, and imagine that Howard Cosell is reading this and not me. Okay.
Okay, you just aged yourself, but that's all right, Eddie.
Yeah, if you don't know who Howard Cosell is, first of all, shame on you. Even if he died before you were born, you could look him up. I mean, I know who Clem McCarthy and a lot of people before my time were. So look up Howard Cosell. Very interesting dude. Anyway, he would have, think of him, find a video of him. Here we go. On Saturday, May 18th, at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, 37-year-old WBA, IBF, WBO unified heavyweight champ Alexander Usyk of Ukraine, with a record of 21-0 with 14 knockouts, is set to fight 35-year-old WBC heavyweight champ Tyson Fury of the UK, with a record of 34-0-1 and 24 knockouts, to unify all the major heavyweight titles, at least for the moment. Both fighters have already arrived in Saudi Arabia, and after numerous delays and excuses, it now seems all but assured that they will actually have a fight. And then I went on a little bit less histrionically to talk about questions about Fury versus Usyk. And the first question really is, which Fury will show up and which Usyk? Because Fury is probably, you recall, looked absolutely awful in his last fight against Francis Ngannou, which he won by decision, but he showed no power. He was embarrassingly knocked down in the third round by this boxing novice in the third round of his first fight as a professional boxer. And of course, going up against people in MMA who don't have boxing skills in most cases, it's not a comparison.
Right.
So we could see how well Ngannou takes a punch in the next fight, and Anthony Joshua destroyed him in 2 rounds. He only landed a couple punches, and almost every time he landed a right hand, down went Ngannou, and the last time he was out cold and flat on his back. So the question is, with Fury being pretty inactive, that was his only fight in 2023. The fight with Fury and Usyk was supposed to be December 2023. That was postponed until February because of cut that he sustained in the fight. Then he got a cut in training, and that was postponed from February to May 18th. And it looks like in a couple of days, finally, they're going to fight. He has not been fighting regularly. The last time he looked really good was 4 years ago in his second fight with Deontay Wilder. But in his third fight, the year later, he was knocked down twice by Wilder, and it looked like all of the ring wars had taken the toll on him. Usyk, it looks like, has a lot less wear and tear on him, but in his last fight, there were questions raised when he was dropped by a body shot by Daniel Dubois when they fought in Poland in August of last year.
Low blow.
That was ruled a low blow, and there's still controversy about whether it was a low blow or not. I thought it was, But in any case, it raises the question of, is Usyk vulnerable to body shots? And Usyk got up and Dubois lost focus, and Usyk went on to get a ninth round knockout. But what did that show about Usyk, who's 37, starting to decline? And so if you look at the strengths and weaknesses of these two people, Usyk, of course, is the smaller of the two. Fury has the size advantage, but Usyk, I think, has better speed and footwork and better ring IQ overall, though Fury's has been good, very good over the years, but how much is left at this point? So the question then becomes, okay, who wins between these two? And opinions are really split along the lines. Now, the question that is not being asked that much is that if this is a close fight, what happens with the issue of governance of this fight? And Turkey al-Sheikh of the Saudi Arabian General Entertainment Authority, who's using the money from their multi-hundred billion dollar public investment fund to bankroll this, gushed about Fury, called him the most beautiful diamond in boxing. And he said, well, he has to be fair in this fight. It's clear that they want Fury back. And they've already announced the rematch with Fury and Usyk, which is contracted, is going to be in October to kick off Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia this year. So what happens if it's a relatively close fight and it goes to the judges, as many people see being very likely. It seems unlikely anybody's going to knock anybody out in this fight, or anybody's just going to completely dominate them. Well, the question then becomes, is there going to be fair judging, especially knowing that there's a lot of money to be made in the rematch? Now, they're doing this fight in May, where the temperature is extremely hot in Saudi Arabia. A lot of their tourist attractions are closed because of the heat, because people generally aren't going there, and that's aimed at the tourists rather than the locals. October, it cools off, which is why they start their Riyadh season events, which generally run from October, sometime in October to early March. And that could be the big money maker, not just in Saudi Arabia, but on TV. If the first fight ends controversially, or if it's a draw, whether that's fair or not, the second fight could be the real big one. So the question is there going to be any funny business? Is there going to be proper governance? And
this is boxing.
This is boxing. So we really got to keep our spidey sense up in turn. Now it could be fair, because the British Boxing Board of Control is running this, but they're known to have cockamamie decisions all the time. And one issue that has come up before the fight, on the first day of fight week, was a situation that happened when both camps and tons of media, all these people were gathered in the Riyadh Hilton. There were all these interviews with the fighters and their camps going on, which, and you could see a lot of these things on YouTube. And there's a whole bunch of people gathered in the lobby, and Crazy John Fury, the 59-year-old father of Tyson Fury, who banned in the U.S., and he was banned in the U.S. before Tyson and the rest of the family were banned because of their association with the gangster Kinahan. John Fury was banned because he had been jailed for several years for gouging another man's eyes out, was his criminal record. So the U.S. said, we don't have to let this guy in. John Fury gets in a big argument with Team Usyk.
Oh, shit.
Usyk also revealed that who are these people that were with him? His security people. He said, these people are soldiers. There are people that know how to fight with knives, that know martial arts, that know wrestling. That this is not, Ukraine, of course, is at war against Russia, and has had to be very vigilant over the years. And a lot of people have military training. And Usyk is out of the country now, and who knows what the hell can happen in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So he needs all this security. But John Fury is just completely unhinged, and he headbutts a couple of guys. And the last guy that he headbutted, he actually delivered the headbutt wrong, so he split open his forehead. And then it finally it was broken up. The question is, why the hell is John Fury now? Well, apparently he's there as part of his son's team. Why the hell is he still there? You would think that if this happened, if somebody comes to another country for a professional fight, they're part of the camp and they create this kind of incident, wouldn't there be either an arrest or at least they'd cancel his visa and deport him from the country or whatever? And also, what is the British Boxing Board of Control doing about this? If you remember, I was one of the people that was at, in 2002, the Lennox Lewis Mike Tyson press conference at the Hudson Theater in New York. And if you remember what happened in that, they were supposed to fight in Vegas. So they did a press tour, and this is the New York stop. And they were up on the stage and they showed a film, and I think it was Jimmy Lennon Jr. was the announcer. And they're going through, the usual rigmarole and hype. And first Lennox Lewis is up there, and he's standing facing the stage. He's standing on your left. Then they bring out Tyson, who's supposed to be standing on the right. Tyson comes out, walks straight over to Lewis in his camp and starts throwing punches. There's a huge brawl in which Tyson bites Lennox Lewis's leg. Jose Suleiman, the head of the WBC, who was an elderly man, said he was injured in that fight. And so word gets around. This was on the mainstream news, by the way, because I went to WBAI right after that, and all these people heard about it, and they say, was this for real? Was this like a WWE type stunt? And I said, no, this is 100% real and 100% crazy. The Nevada Commission finds out, they revoke Tyson's license. He's fined, and they say you cannot have this fight in Vegas. So they actually had to move to Memphis, where you had the Tennessee Commission was more than willing to put up with any kind of spectacle. Now, this did not involve the fighters. Tyson Fury was doing interviews in another room when this was going on, and he came into the lobby after it was over. So he's not implicated in this, but his father, who's part of the team, is. What are they going to do about it, and what are they going to do to prevent something further from happening? Because this is just a ridiculous, very volatile situation. And so the governance of boxing in Saudi Arabia and the role of the British Boxing Board of Control, since Saudi Arabia does not have his own boxing commission, are really up for question. Again, it goes back to governance. So they're still set to fight on Saturday. We're going to see what happens. But again, you could really summarize it like Chris said in one little phrase. It's
This
boxing.
is boxing, right? And
It is boxing.
Yeah. And he will
you
probably
know-
be in his son's corner.
Yeah, God knows.
Fight
And
night.
the question too is, I mean, since WBC is involved in this is undisputed. Are they also doing clean boxing, clean drugs? Are they going to do body testing? No
I
clue.
think so. I think theoretically there's a lot of testing.
Theoretically, we'll see if that happens. The other thing is, they have selected a referee, though not British. It's an American referee named Mark Nelson that has had some controversy in the past. Although in the last several years, things have been better. But there was a Pacquiao fight, Jeff Horn Pacquiao fight in 2017 that was controversial with him as the third person in the ring. So we'll see how this all goes.
I smell dirty business. That's all I know.
Well, there's a lot of money.
Right, exactly.
And the last time, also remember, bringing back more memories of New York, when there was a fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, in March 1999, you had Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield, and that fight was ridiculously scored a draw when it was clear that everybody watching said Lewis won, except two of the judges. One scored it for Holyfield and one scored it even. So it was a split draw. That caused a major scandal, not just in boxing, but in mainstream news all over the place. And that really hurt boxing and helped diminish it, which is why boxing, one of the many things has led to boxing collapsing all around the world. And Saudi Arabia basically picking up the equivalent of picking up one of these distressed properties and pumping money into it and to try to make some money from it. And that when they fought in November, they had to go to Vegas, and Lewis won that fight as he deserved to. Although many people argue Lewis looked more dominant in the first fight than in the second fight. But in any case, it took that. And then shortly thereafter, there were only 3 major belts then, for the WBO was recognized as a belt. Lewis got stripped of the WBA belt because he wouldn't fight John Ruiz, who was not as much of a draw as one of the other opponents that he would face. So he didn't remain undisputed for very long, although nobody particularly cared until, they all viewed Lewis, as the top fighter until his last fight with Vili Klitschko, which he won on a cut and then shortly thereafter retired.
Wow. That's
What a
some
mess.
history there,
Well,
Eddie.
we'll see. The thing is, the Saudis are talking about not wanting to have a clown show, but you're not even started yet, and here we are in a clown show. So
They're going to have
and
to
we
clean
don't
up
know
the clown
what's
show.
we don't know what's happened behind the scenes, if anyone's spoken to the Fury camp
Right.
about reining in the father, but it doesn't
That's what
bode
they
well.
get for letting that guy into the country.
So
Yeah,
Eddie,
exactly right.
So Eddie, who are you picking in this fight? What's your prediction?
I'm not making a prediction. There are several reasons why I'm not making a prediction, but I generally don't like to make public predictions unless there's a specific reason for it. But if it's on the up and up, I'm leaning to Usyk by a close decision, but I'm not convinced that he can get a close decision under all these conditions if he deserves it. So that's why I encourage people, don't waste your money gambling on this.
Right.
Send it to me. Subscribe to my No Holds Barred on Patreon for a couple bucks a month. Instead of throwing it away to a bunch of billion-dollar gambling casinos when you have a cockamamie verdict out there.
Right.
You could bet on Usyk, say, and you think he wins, and the other guy gets his hand raised, or it's a draw or something. So,
Yeah.
Well,
we will see. We will see.
Yeah, all I can say is Loma fought a beautiful fight.
Oh my God, that fight was amazing.
It was a work of art. So, it's sort of like, well, if there's some good Ukrainian juju going on and, coming off a war, maybe Usyk will have that same beautiful display in the ring.
Loma almost 40 years old, and he still got it.
Gosh, he was a work of art.
He was on point.
As the rounds went on, he just became
once he loosened up, right? Because it took him a minute.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. So let's jump right on over to you, Melissa, our women's boxing historian, who is about to launch another book, but we're gonna save that for the end, okay? Yeah.
Another book, yeah.
Right.
No, it was a beautiful. There were 3 big fights this weekend. It's been like a drought, but
I can't wait to hear the recap.
And I know Eddie on social media was all over this. The Lauren Price, Jessica McCaskill fight in Wales. Lauren Price was the gold medalist for Team GB at the delayed Tokyo Olympics in 2021. She has that same kind of support from her home, from the fans in Wales, as Katie does in Ireland, as that same kind of momentum and pride. and she's worth it because she's a remarkable athlete, and she delivered in a fight with Jessica McCaskill, who's on sort of the backside of her career. Fought very awkwardly throughout. But Lauren Price was able to really show her superior skills in the ring. Beautiful jab, beautiful footwork, knew to come in towards her opponent when to get out of harm's way of the wild punching, but also to kind of stop some of that nonsense going on in the ring. Because really, Jessica McCaskill did not have anything in it throughout the entire. I didn't give her a round.
Wow,
In the
no
entire
kidding. I
fight.
haven't seen the fight yet, but
No,
not one round.
no, and
No.
Jeez.
she did sustain a headbutt, and her eyes started to swell up really badly. And my sense was by the 8th round, I really thought that Rick Ramos was doing her a disservice by not pulling out of the
Right.
fight.
He
There
should
was
have
no
thrown
way
in the
she was
towel.
going to win. She did not have the skill set against Price. She kept coming. She tried, but she just was so outgunned in the ring. And finally, the doctor called it at the beginning of the 9th round. But as I
Wow.
said, even at the end of the 7th, it's sort of like, dude, just pull her out.
Right,
Enough.
exactly. Why put her
What
through
is
that?
the point? And then by the end of the 8th round, I mean, that fight needed to be stopped. I was very grateful that it was, because there was no reason for her to sustain more punishment. And, we're having deaths in the ring here.
Exactly. I saw another young man died. Yeah.
Another young man died, and, you got
After his
Heather Hardy
debut. Right.
retiring the week before due to having sustained
Right.
a
Heather.
brain injury that's affected her eye. So, the sensitivity is there, and Jessica McCaskill is older, in her 30s, so 39 years old, I think.
Yeah.
39 years old, so enough. Time to pack it up.
Right. Retire. Hopefully got something to fall back on.
I thought McCaskill looked absolutely terrible,
She did.
especially for somebody who was viewed as the top, or one of the top welterweights in the world. She didn't throw jabs. She was just charging in, rushing in.
Yeah.
It was such a terrible performance. And I think also Price, while the better technical boxer, there was a lot of dirty stuff going on between both fighters. The headbutt was part of it. It wasn't the only headbutt. There was a tremendous amount of holding. The referee seemed to allow both fighters to get away with holding, and Price would come in, throw a couple of punches, and then grab McCaskill, and McCaskill would charge in and grab Price. It was a very ugly, dirty fight that went on. Now, the fans loved it because it was in Cardiff, and it was shown live for free on BBC Wales, in Wales, in addition to Sky. And in the US, it's on Peacock. If you have Peacock, you can still watch the whole show because they keep it up there for a while. And it was only the seventh pro fight for Price. So she can improve, but I think the fact that she won and all the hoopla around her shouldn't cloud the fact that she still has a long way to go to become a top professional, because they're talking about matching or maybe getting a unification bout with Sandy Ryan or Tasha Jonas, and I don't think at this point she's in their league. But
certainly not Tasha Jonas. Sandy Ryan maybe, and then Mayer's in the mix as well, because in her fight with Jonas, I mean, if you watch it again, you see she clearly won. It was close, but Mayer is definitely in the mix at 147, and I think really should be, because she's a very good fighter, precisely because she has had longer to learn the pro game, and even in a fight with Price, I think would really take her a long way, because as distinct from Jessica, who had brought nothing into this fight, Mayer has a beautiful jab. She knows how to fight inside and outside, and would clearly give Lauren Price a difficult, high level of a boxing experience. So we'll see how that all goes.
Yeah, she may need better coach for that, because she had Rob McCracken, the Team GB amateur coach there,
Yeah.
and she's the same guy that was coaching her in the Olympics. That Anthony Joshua had to move on
Right, right.
from when you get to a certain level in the pros.
Although with Mayer, she's continued with her team, but it's been successful because they had come out of the pro style. But
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting. I mean, for Tasha Jonas, it's interesting because she's pretty much announced this is her last year in the sport, and the question will be who does she fight next and when. And I don't know what that's going to look like. And then we got Clarissa Shields hasn't had a fight in a long time.
Yeah, what is
She
going
is
on
said
with
to
her?
be she has said to be announcing very soon for something in the summer. We'll see what that's
You
gonna
mean
look
other
like.
than calling out Keith Herman and
Oh, and Ryan Garcia,
and
yeah,
Ryan Garcia?
And
has
Javante
it.
Davis.
Yeah, all of that. Because she's, she needs something to do.
Oh, like,
She
sis,
needs a
just
fight.
calm down, right? You want
The
to fight
woman
that
needs
man
a
down,
fight.
right?
And her film is coming out this summer, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff happening for her.
And I guess her MMA is on hold for a while.
Yeah, so
I don't
that
see
was
that going anywhere.
No. Well, you
No.
got Marshall's fighting, her MMA fight is coming up soon. Not exactly sure when.
Wow.
But there were two other fights this weekend. Nina Hughes, who had won the WBA title last year. And then Bupkis was not able to get another fight. She ended up leaving Matchroom and went to Lou DiBella, who got her a fight with Chernica Johnson on the undercard of the Loma fight. I mean, they were the co-main, if you will. The Loma
On ESPN, believe
on
it or not, in the US.
ESPN. And by the way, if you're in the US and you have Hulu, you can watch ESPN.
Oh,
on
yeah,
Hulu.
exactly. You can watch yeah,
it's so easy. You don't have to sit
Yep.
there and try to do the other app and all the rest of that nonsense. But they had a fight. Oh man.
And the winner is
And the winner is the ring announcer.
Wait, no.
Announced Nina and then said, no, wrong, Johnson.
Okay, what did they blame that on? Was the announcer just reading the wrong?
Yeah, just brain fart. First time
yeah.
that ever happened to him.
Everybody
Apparently a very
called him
reputable guy.
Steve
And
Harvey.
I think it was Lou DiBella on Twitter, I think it was today, he put out a note that is sort of like, hey, leave the guy alone. He's having a nervous breakdown. He's going to quit the sport.
Well, it was embarrassing.
He screwed up the previous fight.
Yeah.
Reading when he read the cards, he said, "And this judge voted 113, 115. You don't do it like that." And this some supposedly a professional announcer on international television broadcast doesn't know how to read the results. And then the next fight he announced that Hughes had won when Johnson had really won him. And this is like a where's it that Steve Harvey did that in one of the
Steve
award
Harvey
shows?
did that.
Yeah, exactly. That was 2 years ago. Announced the wrong film. Well, that was it. And then the way he announced it again, he reversed the numbers, which made it even more confusing. It's like it was 96, 94. No, 94, 96. It's really funny. But the net effect though for poor Nina Hughes was, she fought her heart out.
Yeah.
It was a very close fight. You could give it to Johnson. I mean, there was one score 98-92 I found way all over the top, because I thought Hughes in particular early in the fight was really dominant. But then I think, Chernica Johnson is younger, stronger, bigger, and flashier. So, it looked like she was doing more potentially than she actually was. It was very close. And given that Hughes had to wait an entire year and just had this agony of not being looked after by her promoter in a way that gave her the opportunity to fight within a timely manner, other than in 1 year, and also almost lost the belt on the page because she didn't have a fight in time. I mean, this is like the old days when
she went to
Melissa McMorrow lost her belt that way, or Kalisha West, because they couldn't get a fight in time, So that really sucked for her. But you know,
Who's
she
her
did have this.
promoter?
She changed from Matchroom to Ludabella. Ludabella
okay.
got in the fight on the Australian card. So
Right.
now Chinrika Johnson, who, you know, is a legit champ, is a two-way champ. So we'll see how that all goes. She's a pretty good fighter.
Right.
And then the last fight was really kind of cool down in Mexico. Main event, yay.
Yay.
Erica Cruz Hernandez, who, you know, we saw
likes
fight
to
Amanda
fight.
Serrano last year.
Mhm.
Still the most punches ever thrown in any
Right.
women's
She
championship
likes to
fight,
fight.
almost over
Yeah.
1,900 punches.
Crazy.
So she had a barn burner with Romero, who was Argentinian, who got robbed in her last fight. This was a draw, and it's sort of like cool because we want them to play it back, and that was a legit draw. It was close. It could have
Yeah.
gone to Cruz, could have gone the other way.
Right.
Great fight, always tenacious, just battling each other. So that it was great that it was, you know, main
Nice.
event. It was shown on DAZN. So good on them for continuing to show women's bouts. And as I said, this weekend was great because we had actually 3 fights, or, you know, championship level fights. There were other fights that happened on small little cards, but at least it had 3 that were televised. So that was fantastic.
Fantastic. Giving it up for women's boxing, folks. Anything else you guys want to cover? Because that's about it. That we're doing recaps these weeks. That's our boxing recap for the weekend. Eddie, anything else you want to cover, brother, before we bounce?
I'd say pay attention to any funny business that might be going on with Usyk and Fury. We'll see what happens in that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there are signs that it might happen, and so be very vigilant. Perhaps people warning about it will prevent that stuff from going on. But there's so much crap. I mean, as Melissa said, the one score in the fight with Johnson and Hughes, isn't it funny that there always seems to be one score that's way out in outer space in those things all the time? Isn't that a strange coincidence that nobody has noticed, you know? So what's gonna happen if it goes to a decision on Saturday night? And hopefully, in terms of all these expensive pay-per-views the expensive pay-per-view it costs to watch Usyk and Fury. The last big show they had there, Knockout Chaos, which had Joshua knocking out Ngannou, just a couple of days afterwards, Turkey Al-Sheikh put the whole card up for free legally on his YouTube page, and they did a nice job. They put the whole 7-hour show up, and they also put separate videos up for the fights if you didn't want to watch the whole thing or just wanted to watch specific fights. And there's some other good fights on this. Jai Opataya versus Maris Freitas, Frank Sanchez against Ajit Kabayal, a heavyweight contenders fight, 2 undefeated, really good, arguably top 10 heavyweights. And you have Joe Cordina against Anthony Kakachi for a title fight for his IBF belt. It's a very good card. Hopefully they could start to put these things on for free or on some cable type networks, so you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for them. So watch for that, because I don't think, again, there's so much piracy, so much stuff going on. The pay-per-view model has long been counterproductive and really is now dead, but they're still pursuing it. And if they're innovating a lot in Saudi Arabia, one thing they could figure out is show it to the whole world. And now just not having an audience of, say, a couple 100 million people in the US or in the UK, you could have an audience potentially of 8 billion people around the world. And maybe you could find a way to make money without charging everybody an arm and a leg to watch these fights.
Right on. Well, thank you, Eddie, for your analysis today. That was fantastic, as always. You want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah, subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/Eddie Goldman. and that has to have a very inexpensive paywall, because these other websites, basically, many of which I've written for, no longer want to put up any independent journalism and any independent media. They want to be shills for promoters and networks, and pick and choose where they, maybe they'll go after one promoter but defend another promoter, or be in the pocket of another promoter and be, quote, muckrakers about the opposition to the promoter and network that's backing them.
Right.
So that's what we're doing. So that's at patreon.com/Eddie Goldman. On Twitter, I'm still on there because that's still where the widest
We
type of
can't leave. We
discussion is
can't
going
break
on.
up with you.
Well, right, because there's no other alternative that's good and that's viable,
All right.
unless you just want to discuss, pictures of people's animals or something. But on Twitter, it's at NHB News, and at eddiegoldman.com, and subscribe to the Patreon, support independent media.
That's right. Support independent media. Thank you, Eddie. All right, my sister. Women's boxing historian Malissa Smith, tell us where the people can find you, please.
I am on social media at Girl Boxing Now, Twitter, where I live tweet events. I just stick to boxing there. Threads a little bit. Then I'm at my website. I've got Girl Boxing, which is where I do my writing, girlboxing.org. And then my author website is melissa-smith.com. My book's coming out on June 4th. Promise of Women's Boxing, a momentous new era for the sweet science. My book launches June 15th. I've put together an amazing women's boxing forum, the only one you'll get this year. And I've got 6 amazing women, beginning with Alicia Ashley, Alicia Napoleon, Shelley Vincent, Ronica Jeffrey, Maureen Shea, champions all, and then champion of the referees, Sparkle Lee. So she will have her own unique perspective on from the standpoint of being the third person in the ring, and moderator Raquel Cepeda, who's the author of How I Became a Latina,
Right.
and a filmmaker and an amateur boxer at a Mendez Gym in New York City. So I'm real excited. Hope y'all can
Congratulations.
make it down to Gleason's Gym June 15th, 7 o'clock.
That's right. June 15th, Gleason's Gym in New York City.
Yes.
That's right. No, you got to come to LA. Make sure we get a women's boxing forum.
Yeah, that sounds like something
Yeah,
we
you
could
got
do in the
to.
fall.
You have to
In
do a
the
panel
fall.
discussion. That's yeah, we can. I'm gonna help you with that. Let's make
Yeah,
that
we'll
happen.
do that in the fall. We'll make that happen.
All right. Well, look, folks, that is all for today. I am your host, Chris Baldwin, your fight goddess, and I really, really hate being on Twitter, but I'm still there. At Angry Afro Radio. You guys can find me on Instagram at Fight Goddess 1 on Instagram and Threads. Until next time, folks, we will see you mañana. Peace, love, and push-ups. Boom.